What's up guys, Asian here again with part 2 of our Templar Healing, or I guess healing guide in general. You can think of this as a subsection of part 2. This is specific for Templars. We're going to be going over the skills, attribute points, food, potions, CV point distributions, things like that. Things that you would need to know for Templars that does not pertain to gear. So like I said, this is specific for Templar Healing. Part 1, which I will link somewhere around here. It will cover all of our gear, so if you haven't watched that, make sure to go see that. That'll cover the gear, which basically covers all different classes of healing, so make sure to take a look at that when you get a chance to. So for Templar Healers, going to start off with attribute points. So for right now, I have 54 points into Magicka and 10 into health. You can put all of your points into Magicka if you want. However, the point of a healer is to stay alive. If you are dead, you can't heal your friends aren't going to get healed, they're going to die, and then the whole group wipes, and guess whose fault it is? It's your fault. I know that's kind of a trope, but it is true. Your priority is to keep yourself alive before everybody else. So that's why we have some extra points into health, instead of putting all of our points into Magicka. Now, do keep in mind I am a Dark Elf, so if you are an Argonian, Argonians are kind of the preferred race for healers nowadays because of their potion passive. Argonians do get extra health and extra Magicka, so you can kind of play around with your attribute point distributions. You want to hit around 18 to 19,000 health as a healer, which is slightly higher than the 17k health that DPS typically shoot for. But that extra health will definitely help keep you alive in trial scenarios and even in dungeons. You want to hit around 30,000 Magicka if you can. As long as you are a race that has max Magicka passives, you can hit 30,000 Magicka. So here we have spell damage is at 19,380 or 1,938. You want your spell damage to be on the higher end of things, not necessarily at 2,000 like Magicka DPS are at, but you want it to be at least, I'd say, 17,000 to 16,000, or 1,700 to 1,600. That's because your healing potential, the strength of your heals, does scale off spell damage, so the higher spell damage, the higher your heals are. So you do want to have fairly high spell damage. Spell crit we have here is 41%. This one can be on the lower end. You don't necessarily rely on your critical hits, critical heals I should say, to bring people up to max. That's why you want relatively high spell damage, so you can get that burst heal off, that breath of life off when you absolutely need it. Our Magicka regen's on the very high end, 1780. You definitely want for your Magicka regen to be very, very high. We are a vampire for the extra 10% Magicka regen. We're using Orzagar's Red Frothgar, which gives us 5,000 extra health and 457 extra regen. So Magicka regen is very, very important to a healer. So every 2 seconds we're getting almost 2,000 Magicka back. That's basically enough for an extra healing spring. So the higher your Magicka regen, the better. There is kind of a point where you see diminishing returns, and that's probably around 1,800 to 1,900 Magicka regen. So I've seen builds as high as 2,000 Magicka regen. That to me is on the very, very ceiling of what you should aim for. Personally, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, that's pretty good in terms of Magicka regen. Your resistances are going to be on the lower end because you're wearing all light armor, so you're not getting any Undaunted passive, you're not getting any heavy armor boost, so your resistances are going to be on the lower end. You will be using Channeled Focus, that'll give you your major resistance buffs, so you will be slightly less squishy than what you are now, and you're also getting hit by Combat Prayer, which gives you minor resistance buffs, but you are going to be basically more or less as squishy as a DPS. So do keep that in mind. You're going to want to get out of red circles and things like that. For our Mundus Stone, I personally go with the Thief for some extra crit chance. Crit heals are fairly potent. It is very nice to have a crit heal, a crit Breath of Life heal, and bring a tank all the way back up to full. But you do have other options. You can go with the Ashranak for added magic regen if you want to, or you can go with the Ritual for added healing done. That's kind of a pick your choice. I've even seen healers use Apprentice for the extra spell damage. It's really your choice. The two most common Mundus Stones that I've seen are the Thief and the Atronach. So pick your poison is kind of the way it works. We are a vampire here for the extra 10% magical regen, plus Undeath is very powerful passive to have. It reduces the damage we take when we're under 50% health. When we're stage 3, just do keep in mind you will take extra fire damage. I am a Dark Elf, so that is mitigated a little bit, but if you're not a Dark Elf, you're taking that full 20% extra fire damage as a stage 3 vamp. So good to have some extra Bloody Maras on you if you want to reduce yourself down to stage 2, so you still get that magic regen, but it's up to you. I've played with stage 4 vamp pretty much throughout most of my vet healing experiences as a healer. Now to go on to actual skills. This is our front bar. This is going to be where our Resto Staff is. So we have our shield, Harness Magicka. You can use Dampen Magic, Healing Springs, Combat Prayer, Power of the Light, Energy Orb, and we have Aggressive Warhorn. Our back bar is going to be our Lightning Staff. We have Luminous Shards, Extended Ritual, Channeled Focus, Blockade of Storms, Elemental Drain, and you have a flex spot here for ultimate. You can use Replenishing Barrier. I like to have the Templar ulti here, practice Incantation. You can also use Remembrance. If you want to add a little bit of extra DPS, you can go with the Elemental Rage, the Destro ulti if you want to. In some fights you will be asked to use Solar Prison or Solar Disturbance for that extra damage reduction, Major Maim. So you do have options here, depending on what your group wants at whatever time. My personal recommendation is to keep the Templar Healing Ultimate on. It's always nice if you do need that extra burst heal. It's very powerful, it's very potent, and you can use it on your Destro bar compared to the Resto Staff ulti. Now, healers, you do have a couple of flex spots, but you also have abilities that you always want to have on your bars no matter what. You always want to have your shield. Always want a shield on one of your bars. Shields save lives. They'll eat damage that would otherwise kill you. So you always want to have a shield, whether that's on your Resto bar or your Destro bar. I recommend having it on your front bar because that's going to be the bar that you're on the most. So that's kind of where I put my shield. You can put it on the back bar, but you have to remember to swap to it whenever you need that shield. Healing Springs and Combat Prayer, always going to want to have these up. Healing Springs is going to be your primary source of healing in trial scenario. Because everyone's going to be basically more or less grouped together, Healing Springs gives you that wide area of effect heal. You can see here it covers a very wide radius. That entire circle there is basically the radius of Healing Springs, so as long as they're within that circle, they're getting that healing tick. Combat Prayer you always want to have up at all times. It gives you Minor Berserk, Minor Resolve, Minor Ward. Not many classes have an innate source of Minor Berserk, which increases their damage done. Only Wardens and Nightblades have a source of Minor Berserk. So Templars, Dragon Knights, and Sorcerers, well, we're going to be relying on you and your Combat Prayer for that Minor Berserk buff. In addition, Combat Prayer also provides the minor resistance buff, Minor Resolve and Minor Ward, and again, not every single class has access to these buffs. Your tank will really like it if you give them Combat Prayer all the time, and I'm sure your DPS will like it for that extra, not just for the extra damage, but also for the extra damage mitigation. So Combat Prayer is a buff that you want to give to everybody every 8 seconds. It's just something that you always want to have up. Now, Power of the Light is a ability that you don't necessarily need to have. This all depends on your raid group. If you don't have a Templar, you might be asked to run Power of the Light for that Minor Fracture, Minor Breach debuff. If you do have a Templar in your group, though, they're going to be the ones responsible for keeping Power of the Light up, so you don't necessarily need to have this up. So this kind of depends on your group composition and what the raid lead wants. So if you are asked to get rid of Power of the Light, you don't need to run Power of the Light. Then you have a couple of options here. So you can basically treat this as a flex spot, with Power of the Light being the priority skill. You can put down Breath of Life. So Breath of Life is that magical Templar burst heal that brings you all the way back up to full health. However, there are disadvantages of using Breath of Life, and My personal recommendation is to use it when you're learning, but as soon as you're able to, start weaning yourself off of relying on Breath of Life. First of all, it's expensive. It costs 3,581 magicka. Compare that with Combat Prayer and Healing Springs, 2738 and 2949. Now, Healing Springs, you get magicka back for every single friendly you hit, up to 3 friendly targets, so it's basically reduced that cost by about 1,000. So you're really looking at 1738 magicka. Compare that to Breath of Life, 3581, that's a full 500 to 600 magicka higher. And the thing with Breath of Life is that it's not necessarily a smart heal. It is a single target heal, so it only heals it heals 2 targets really, but it heals 1 target for that giant burst heal. And it doesn't, note that it only says healing yourself or a wounded ally in front of you. It does not say the ally with the least amount of health. So this is not necessarily going to be a smart heal. You might heal somebody who doesn't need it. It's always going to try to target the person with the least amount of health, but it might not be the tank who's the one that you want to heal. Perhaps there's a DPS in front of you who just took damage, who is at 30% health, the tank is at 50% health, but the game recognizes that the DPS has lower percentage of health, so it'll heal the DPS and not the tank. So that's kind of where Breath of Life falls short. It is a very potent burst heal, but it only heals 2 people. It's not a smart heal, and so for that I can't fully recommend that you keep it on your bar at all time. But it is a very powerful heal and you should put it on if you don't need to run Power of the Light. Radiant Aura, from what I've heard, is still bugged, so you can't really rely on it. You used to be able to use it to apply minor magicka steal across a wide group of enemies, but as far as I've heard, it's still bugged in that only 1 person will get the magicka steal bonus, so don't really run it. For that, you're going to be running it instead for the minor fortitude, minor endurance, and minor intellect buff. Other potential slots you can put here. Mutagen is a very powerful healing move to use, both in trials and in 4-man dungeons. You can use rapid regen as well. I personally like Mutagen better. It does give you that extra burst heal if your allies do happen to fall below that 20% health threshold. So it is very useful. However, rapid regen does heal for more and ticks over a quicker period of time. So you can go with either personally. You'll find more use of it in 4-person content where you only have to cast it twice to hit everybody versus trials where you have to cast it 6 times to hit everybody. But it is still useful in trials, especially when you want to maintain spell power cure. Healing Ward or Ward Ally is another good heal to have if you don't need to run Power of the Light. Not only does it heal a person, it gives them a shield. The shield does increase in strength depending on how badly the target is hurt. And plus when it expires, target is healed based on how much of the shield is remaining, so it can be a very powerful burst heal as well. So it is something to keep in mind. It's not really a skill that you're going to be using very often. It is slightly better than Breath of Life in that it targets the lowest health ally, so it is a semi-smart heal. It just doesn't heal for very much compared to other healing abilities. Quick Siphon is another potential flex spot instead of Power of the Light. It applies minor lifesteal, which can be very useful because you're always getting health now every 1 second. It does not proc spell power cure because it's considered a debuff on the enemy and not a healing ability that you are providing. So it does not proc spell power cure, but it does keep allies at full health, so you do get that spell power cure activation. Are there any other abilities? There aren't really any other abilities that you could use in place of Power of the Light. You could use Purge if you want. There are going to be trials where Purge is basically going to be a necessity. Hall of Fabrication, Maw of Lorcage, Asylum Sanctorium, the new trial. Even some vet dungeons like Cradle of Shadows, you are going to need to use Purge. So if you do need to use Purge, I recommend getting rid of Power of the Light and using Purge instead. Definitely want to use Efficient instead of Cleanse because it's a very expensive skill to use. So for our back bar, there's not really much in terms of flex spots here. All these are pretty much required. So one thing to keep in mind is extended ritual, the ritual retribution. If you have a second Templar healer in a trial, if both of you are using Ascended Ritual, allies can only get the heal from one of them. They do not stack on each other, so it might be worth asking your other healer, what morph are you running, so you can remorph into the other morph if needed. It's not absolutely necessary, especially if you're not going to be right on top of each other, so you can have two rituals overlap on different areas. But it is something to keep in mind. It is something to try to communicate with your other healer if they are a Templar. So with all of our skills out of the way, before we go into CP, food, I kind of touched on this earlier, we're using Orzagar's Red Frothgar. Gives us 500,000 max health as well as 457 magical regen for 2 hours. It's very good food to have. You can get this from Hrothgar quest, so it is a free recipe to get, so it is something that I recommend you running. The other options you can use is Witchmother's Potent Brew, which increases your magicka health and gives you magic regen. However, it gives you 1500 less health compared to Hrothgar. Does give you some extra magicka, it does give you extra magicka regen, but I can't fully recommend this because you will need to put some points into health, more points into health. As you can see here, we just barely hit, we're not even hitting the 18,000 health that I recommend for healers, so I would classify Witchmothers as use at your own risk. It's not something I'd recommend just because of the lower regen and the lower health. I would still recommend going with Hrothgar instead. And then for potions, you can use Essence of Spell Power. Gives you major sorcery, major prophecy, major intellect, as well as restores some magicka. This can be made using Cornflower, Lady Smock, and Water Hyacinth. I recommend using Essence of Spell Power whenever you can because it gives you major sorcery. Templars don't have a source of major sorcery, a class source of major sorcery, so definitely use that. And if you are an Argonian as well, you get some extra health and stamina back from your potion passive as well. So it's very useful to have. It's very useful to use potions. So now onward to our CP point distributions. I have 75 into Arcanus and 75 into Tenacity. That leaves us 80 points to put into these next 3 nodes, however you see fit. I have 28 in Shadow Ward, 26 in Tumbling, and 26 in Warlord. For our blue CPs, I'm going to put 100 points into Blessed, 100 points into Elf Ward. No reason why not. You're not going to DPS, so none of the other nodes really matter too much. This does leave you with 30 points, so I put 11 in Elemental Expert and 19 into Spell Erosion just to help with DPS a little bit. But ultimately, as long as you have 100 in Elf Board and 100 in Blessed, the other 30 can go into any other of the DPS nodes however you see fit. For our red CPs, this current configuration is a one-size-fits-most. Depending on the content you're going to run, you can start switching up CP points. For example, if you're going to be running Helra Citadel, where you know you're going to be facing a lot more physical damage, you could take points out of spell mitigation nodes and put them into physical mitigation nodes. But it's kind of a play by ear, figure out what content you're running and make adjustments accordingly. I have 44 into Ironclad, 37 into Thickskin, 56 into Hardy and Elemental Defender, and 37 into Bastion. So that's basically it in terms of non-gear related content that you need to be aware of for Templar healers. Templar healers definitely have stronger heals overall, especially with Breath of Life. They definitely provide some group utility with Power of the Light and Orbs and Shards. It's nice being able to have Shards as well on the field in addition to Orbs. They might share a cooldown, but Shards will not move around, so they're a little bit easier to get to in terms of synergizing with them compared to Orbs, so it is nice that Templars have that option there. So that's kind of where they're at. Templars are still considered the top healers in ESO. Wardens are coming up as a very, very close second, and in fact I'd say they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of healing potential and healing ability. So that's it for this build video. Part 3 of this guide is going to be myself healing on my Templar healer. I'm not sure exactly what content I'm going to showcase. It's probably end up being a vet dungeon because I'm not as comfortable with healing as I am with tanking and DPSing, so I probably won't be doing a vet trial on my healer anytime soon, but definitely a vet dungeon is within possibility, and that's just so you guys can get a sense of how healing on a Templar goes. So that's it for part 2 of Templar Healing, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.